Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you're well. This is Jill Hanson. Welcome to our long-awaited and much anticipated launch of our Level 6 and 7 qualifications for leaders and managers. Can I just ask you, as a check to make sure you can hear me, to just pop a yes into the chat, just to make sure that this is broadcasting loud and clear while we just wait for the last few people to come on. Oh, can't see any. Oh, yes, I can. Phew, it's in the questions. Brilliant. Thank you very, very much. Could we have the next slide, please, Julie? Just to let you all know that this is being recorded, so if you do drop off for any reason or you can't stay till the end, you will be able to catch up on the recording. We will send it out to everybody who attended, but also to everybody who registered. So fingers crossed the recording will be working fine. You are all on mute as always, just because of the sheer numbers that are on, but please do ask any questions in the question function as we go along. We will send out the slides as well with the recording, so again you can pick pieces out of that for any promotional stuff that you want to do in the future. And yeah, we'll probably come to the questions at the end, but we'll try and keep a track of them just in case they really, you know, sort of need to be answered in the moment because we're not being clear about anything. Okay. We've given everybody a couple of minutes. We've got lots of people on, so I think we will carry on. If you could just show me the next slide, Julie. So today you've got myself, Jill Hanson, technical advisor. We've also got Julie driving the slides, Julie Rowlett, and she'll be talking to you later. And we've got Giuseppe Poliseno as well. She is going to be talking to you about the detail of the new qualifications in a moment. So just to give you a run through of the agenda, so I'm going to talk about the purpose, what the new qualifications look like. We're going to talk about the assessment of those qualifications, what the approval process is for the various combinations of the qualifications, and then the support that will be available for yourselves. And then we will take most of the questions at the end. Okay. So obviously we've got the level 6 and we've got the award certificate and diploma, and that one's called in leadership and management, and we've got the code on there for you, 8360. And then we've got the level 7 award certificate, diploma and extended diploma, and we've given that the in strategic leadership and management, and we've got the code there too, the 8618. And both qualifications are there to allow learners obviously to further develop the knowledge and the practice and the skills as managers and senior leaders. So at level 6, obviously, you know, they will need to be active in their role, but they might be new to their role, or they might be in role as a senior manager, but they might be aspiring to a further senior management role or a more strategic role, looking for promotion. So the topics that we've got in there and the demand, if you will, of the assessments are there to sharpen the critical thinking skills and to get them to evaluate the performance and really, you know, step up to that senior leadership role. And similarly at level 7, you know, they will need to be acting strategically. They will need to be in that strategic senior leader role, but seeking to develop themselves, seeking to get themselves that qualification to underpin that development. And there are progression routes between the two. So between the 6 and the 7, in fact, between the 5 and the 6 and the 7. So they very much embed now into the route through the management journey. I'm going to hand you over now to Juicy, and she'll give you a lot more detail about the structure of the qualification and the detail of the qualification. Thanks, Juicy.
Thank you, Jill. Can I just check you can hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I will now give you an introduction on how these qualifications are structured. So for the level 6, we got 3 sizes. We have the award with a minimum requirements of 5 credits to achieve the award. We have introduced the certificate with a minimum of 15 credits to achieve the certificate, and the diploma with a minimum requirements of 40 credits. In terms of the level 7, we have 4 sizes: award with minimum requirements of 7 credits to achieve the award, the certificate minimum of 15 credits to achieve the certificate, the diploma 40 credits as a minimum to achieve the diploma, and then we have introduced the extended diploma with a minimum of 60 credits to be achieved. This is a result of an extensive consultation and feedback throughout the whole process, and also working very closely with the subject matter experts. So if we can go to the next slide, please, in terms of guided learning hours, total qualification time, and the program of study. In terms of the level 6, the award in leadership and management, we have 2 programs of study, 11, which is the full qualification route, and then we have 61, which is used for dual accreditation mapped route. This has a minimum of 10 GLH and a total qualification time of 50. The certificate, level 6 certificate in leadership and management, we have 3 programs of study, 21, which is for the full qualification route, 22 is the top-up route. So for instance, from the award, if you wish to progress into the certificate, is program of study 22, and then 62 dual accreditation mapped for the level, and here we have a minimum of 27 GLH and total qualification time of 150. The level 6 diploma in leadership and management, we have 3 program of study, the full qualification route program of study 31, top-up route 32. For instance, if from the certificate you want to move up to the diploma, and the 63 dual accreditation mapped route with a minimum of 67 GLH and total qualification time 400. If we can move to the next slide to show the level 7, please. So we have, as I said, 4 sizes. We have the award in leadership, in strategic leadership and management. We have program of study 11, full qualification route. And then we have the 61 for the dual accreditation mapped route with a minimum of 15 GLH and total qualification time of 70. Then for the certificate, we have 3 program of study, 21 full qualification route, then 22 top-up route from, so if you want to move from an award to the certificate, and the 62 dual accreditation mapped with a minimum of 25 GLH and total qualification time 150. The diploma, 3 program of study, 31 full qualification route, 32 is the top-up route, moving, for instance, from a certificate to a diploma, and 63 is the dual accreditation mapped with a minimum of GLH at 66 and total qualification time at 400. And finally, the new introduced size, which is the extended diploma, 3 program of study, 41, which is the full qualification route, 42 the top-up route, moving, for instance, from a diploma to an extended diploma, and 64 with the dual accreditation mapped route, minimum GLH of 90 and total qualification time of 600. If we can move to the next slide, please. So here is the list of the brand new level 6 units. they go by 701 to 7112. As I said, this is the result of extensive consultation. These are the topics that were deemed to be fundamental and at this level. So here you have the different units. I will mention very briefly later on the rules of combination, but they are all optional units. Then there are no mandatory units, and these are all at level 6. And then within the same suite, the 8360, if we can move to the next slide, please. I think one back, please, or two back. You need to go a bit back, back, here. Okay, so what we have as well within the 8360 suite, we have what we call spiky profile units. So there will be an opportunity to take units at different level. So we have some level 5 units, and some of you might be familiar with them. They are from 504 to 550, so the 504, 514, 522, 529 and 550, there are existing units within the level 5. So they have not been amended at all. So it's exactly as they were before, as well as the 703, which is an existing unit within the current level 7. And then we have the brand new units that we have developed, which are from 710 to 717. So there is a possibility to do units at different levels as well. And I will tell you a bit more shortly, but I want to show you the level 7 units. If we can move to the next slide, please. So within the level 7, we have we have protected the current units from 700 to 703. So you got the 700, 701, 702, and 703. I'm not going to read any of the titles because we are going to circulate the slides, and the handbooks are available on the website already, so you can look at all the details and content. But those are the protected units from the existing level 7. And then we have the brand new units, which I mentioned earlier, which are also available within the level 6, which are from 710 to 717. Again, through consultation, these are the topics that came out as really important at this level and for this kind of roles. And then if we can move to the next slide, there is a possibility here with spiky profiles again, so where you can use units at different levels. So you have all the level 6 brand new units from 601 to 612. Plus we have introduced a unit at level 8, 800, the impactful CEO. Now you remember earlier on I mentioned the minimum credits. For instance, when I said for the level 6 you need a minimum credits of 15, the way it works is the majority of the credits will always need to be at the level you're working towards. So for instance, you will need 8 within the certificate at level 6 with the requirement of 15 credits. You will need 8 credits at the level at level 6, and then the remaining 7 can come from the different levels. So in terms of level 6, you have some units at level 5 and some at level 7. But in general, the way it will work is the majority of the credits will always need to be, if you're doing level 6, at level 6, if you're doing level 7, at level 7. All the details with the rule of combination are detailed in the handbook, and also will be available on the cue cards. So this is just to give you some general guidance on rule of combination. If you can move to the next slide, please. So I just want to show you the structure of the units. You might be already familiar with this kind of layout, which was adopted, I think, the horizontal layout. For instance, I think 2 years ago, we developed some level 3, 5, and 6 products, and customer feedback that this kind of presentation of the unit really helps. So we decided to follow the same path. Just to point out, in each unit, at the top of it, you will have a unit aim, which will tell you what is the content that will be covered in the unit. Then you will have a list of learning outcomes, which are pretty much a mix between knowledge-based learning outcomes as well as skills-based outcomes. On average, you have, in terms of the units, you will find across the level 6 and the level 7 units between 2 learning outcomes, some of them, the majority 3 learning outcomes, and some which are a bit bigger and perhaps carry more credits with 4 learning outcomes. So as I said, we mix the knowledge with the practical skills. What is a learning outcome? The early learning outcome represent what the learner will possess after they have taken the units and pass. So the knowledge and the skills that they will have acquired in the process. You will have, when is a knowledge-based learning outcome, you will find the verb understand. In this case, you can see it says the learner will understand, followed by the content that is covered in this learning outcome. And then you will also have a practical based outcome. Under each learning outcome, you will have a number of assessment criteria. The assessment criteria will specify the knowledge and the skills that must be evidenced, and they represent how the learning outcome will be measured. And there is really a lot of thinking on the verbs that is used depending on the cognitive demand. So if it's a knowledge-based learning outcome, the assessment criteria, it's likely to have, for instance, justify as a knowledge-based assessment criteria. If instead you have a learning outcome which is practical based, you will have assessment criteria that, for instance, will use the verb develop, produce. So just to give you an idea on the difference. Where possible, what we have done, we have indicated, we have signposted the relevant knowledge, skills and behaviors which are within the apprenticeship standard at level 6 for the charter manager degree apprenticeship, and the level 7, the senior leader apprenticeship. They are in bracket highlighted in blue. Not all the assessment criteria will have a reference, the signposting to the apprenticeship standard, knowledge, skills and behaviors. So it's only when relevant. And it's important to say that by no means we are saying that, for instance, if you have the evidence in this case of assessment criteria 1.1, you have met fully the requirement for K12.1. So it's important to note that this is not 100% mapping, is an indication of where the links are. If you are doing the apprenticeship, I will really suggest that you have a look at the apprenticeship standard and at our endpoint assessment documentation, which really gives you all the details on what are the requirements to meet 100% the knowledge, skills and behaviors, the descriptors which are set in each of the apprenticeship standard. It's also important to note that the links to the standard is indicated under the relevant assessment criteria, but at the top of the unit you will find also a section which is called relationship to the apprenticeship standard, which will list again the relevant KSBs that are signposted to the standard which appear in each of the unit. if we can move to the next slide, please. This is the depth section, which is the middle column. And basically what it does, it defines the minimum breadth and scope that needs to be delivered by the customers to meet the minimum requirement to satisfy the assessment criteria. So you will often find a statement and then with a list of content. When, for instance, you see examples, so in this example, you see formation and function of attributes, beliefs and values, e.g. example. So you have a list, cognitive, functional, social judgment, and so on. What it means is that is examples of content that could be covered under the formation and function of attitude, beliefs and values. Is not mandatory. Any other relevant would be acceptable. This is just to steer the customers towards the right direction. But when it's e.g., it's not mandatory. When, for instance, we indicate it as to include or including, and then there is a list, in that case, it means the content, it's mandatory. It needs to be covered. Throughout the unit, the style that we have used for consistency, we have put the theorist and the relevant models. So you can see, for instance, in the management behaviors models, examples, you got Lewin, autocratic, democratic, Hersey and Blanchard, with situational, and Weber, transactional leadership. So that is the kind of style for consistency that we have adopted. So when I said it's examples only, when we say e.g., it means any other alternative can be used as appropriately. And that will really sometimes depend on the learner, on their role and their organization. The example that we provided, it's what is relevant at the time of publishing, but we do very much encourage customers to consider and research the latest theories and models. Yeah, and that is all in terms of the depth. If we can move to the next section. So this is the third column, assessment requirement sufficiency, which basically indicate what is sufficient, what is the minimum required to demonstrate the assessment criteria. You will have often a number of examples, for instance, that needs to be demonstrated, for instance, whether it's theories or models, for examples, in order to demonstrate the appropriate breadth of knowledge, breadth of the subject. So that is, it will be very clear. We often, when it's more than one thing as well, that needs to be demonstrated, we bolded. In this case, you can see monitoring and reporting, both of them will need to be demonstrated. So we made it very clear, just to emphasize that both areas are required, because the assessment criteria in this case is asking to appraise method of monitoring and reporting risk within an organization. Okay, so if we can move to the next slide. Okay, so this is the guidance for delivery in Appendix A. Before I move to this, I also wanted to let you know that there is another section in each of the unit, which is called in the same way, guidance for delivery, which is attached to the unit. So that will be tips, suggestion on how the content can be delivered for each unit. And again, it's not mandatory, it's just suggestion. And you will also have at the end of it, of each unit, a section which is called suggested evidence, which is about the work products examples that can be used as evidence. Again, it's a suggestion, it is not mandatory, is again to give an indication to customers on what type of evidence could be appropriate depending on the content of the unit. And also I wanted to point out that to support the customers, as we've done with other handbooks, prior to the units, there will be a section which is about suggesting reading resources, which are, so you will find a list of units with the titles, and under each unit, each of the titles of the units, you will find the suggested resources that could be used to deliver the content as a suggestion to support our customers. Now, in terms of the guidance for delivery, Appendix A, basically we have indicated in these few pages table themes, topics that are in common and that appear across the units. So in case you are delivering more than one unit, we have shown where the links are. This is really to support effective delivery. For example, under personal skills, if you will find a list of topics, and if we pick on presentation skills, that is covered in Unit 605, Assessment Criteria 3.2, in Unit 606, AC Assessment Criteria 3.1, Unit 608, Assessment Criteria 3.2. So that is how you read the guidance for delivery. Now, if we can move to the next slide, please. The signposting to the apprenticeship, which I mentioned before, not only is under each of the unit, but you have a summary in Appendix B, which goes unit by unit, and to signpost you to the standard. So for you have the unit, you have all the assessment criteria and the relevant knowledge, skills, and behaviors within the apprenticeship standard. And again, as I said, they are not 100%, it's just signposting. So in this case, in Unit 604, delivering outcomes through people, you have, for instance, knowledge 1.1, which is covered in assessment criteria 1.1, and also knowledge 1.2 will be covered in the assessment criteria. The same with knowledge case 7.1, which is covered in AC assessment criteria 2.1 and assessment criteria 2.3. So the first column, the knowledge, skills, and behaviors, are the one listed in the standard, in the apprenticeship standard. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Giusy. Thank you very much. That's brilliant detail. I'm sure that'll be really helpful for everyone. Just before I move into the assessment strategy, I just wanted to pick up on a couple of questions that we've had already. So, is the indicative content for each unit available now? Giusy's answered that now, I'm sure you'll have realised. So it is, the handbook is on the website now. So the indicative content is there in that depth section, in that middle column in the handbook. And the other one, which is similar, would you be able to share a link to the qualification on the website, looking for the cue card, the assignment brief, etc. We will be sharing that link straight after with the follow-up email. So you'll get that, Daniel, straight afterwards. And Adam has just found what he was looking for and downloaded it. So that's brilliant. The other question, which is slightly different, asking what does dual accreditation and mapped mean? So that's for dual accreditation is where one institution has already got a qualification that is accredited, and they use our qualification alongside it. So we map the two lots of content and we map the two lots of assessment into each other. So it's generally colleges and universities. The Ministry of Defence also use the mapped provision, but not as a dual accreditation. So I think if you're in a university, you will know what that dual accreditation is, or we can come and talk to you about it. But just to clear it up while we're talking about it, there are some customers on the call that will absolutely know what that is because they've already got it. Okay, I'll move on to the assessment strategy. Thanks, Julie. So what we have is, sorry, I just think the slide's slightly different than I was expecting. So it's the assessment is per unit, and it's what is classed as in Ofqual terms an externally set assignment that's internally marked by centres. So very similar to what you're used to in sort of the way that it is set by us and marked by yourselves, and obviously still subject to that internal and external quality assurance as normal. And again, as you used to, you know, overall the assessment includes learning something new, some active experimentation, trying out what you've learned, and then reflecting on that and concluding on the learning from that experience. So all of the units combine that knowledge and understanding and skills in real work situations. We have said in all cases, you know, that it needs to be based on your own organisation or one that you're familiar with. And that's always been the case. We've always had that little bit of leeway there where they can talk about real work experiences, not just necessarily in their paid work. The assessment requirements mean that all the learning outcomes and assessment criteria must be met in each unit. So as you can see there on the screen, each one, as you're pretty much used to, each of the units will have the assessment requirements set out for you really clearly. Now, what I will say at this point is that if you're using, where we've imported the units from the level 5 and the old units from the level 7 into the new qualifications, we haven't amended the format, so they will still look exactly the same as they did before. And that's obviously we can't change them in one without changing them where they sit originally, and we wouldn't want to do that all at once for the people that are still using those units in the level 5, and also for people in the level 7 who want to continue using those same units as they were presented before and in the same way. You can still do that, so nobody is losing the qualification that they're used to. If they don't want to, they can still deliver it as they did before, but they will look slightly different in the handbook. So as I say, and Juicy mentioned it as well when she went into detail about what the handbook looks like, you learners must refer to the assessment criteria, but also the assessment requirements, which we used to call on our result sheet sufficiency, so that they understand what it is that they need to provide evidence of within their piece of work. So the assessment requirements, really clear, really, you know, gives detail about how many examples do you need to do? Is this a plural thing? You know, how many times do I need to do it? That kind of thing. In terms of the assessments, again, we have written the assessment brief and suggested, you know, that there might be a written piece of work, there might be a recorded presentation, there might be a recorded professional discussion. You can also, which you didn't necessarily have the ability to do before easily, but you could combine all three within one assignment to make sure that you cover the assessment requirements and the assessment criteria. So they could combine all three of those, and you still do have that option, as you did before, to apply for a change of assessment if necessary. So they are more flexible in already, but you can apply for that change of assessment as you always have been able to for any ILM assessments. You might also find that there is a little bit more of an emphasis on providing evidence of things, so not just writing about what they have done and what they have learned and what they've put into practice, but sometimes, you know, again, and there was some of that in the previous qualifications, but that bringing evidence in, so bringing an action planning, bringing a development planning, bringing a business planning, so bringing that to the assessment piece as well, rather than writing how they would do that. Now, We have, controversially, we have suggested a word count for each assignment, which we always have done. And we've based that on, you know, a lot of consultation, a lot of thinking around the content and the cognitive demand of each different unit. So they do vary very much in terms of word count, but they are for guidance only, like they were before. They are not prescriptive. They're a suggestion based on the depth and breadth of the piece of work that we're presenting. And, you know, there are two very different schools of thoughts about word counts, but at the end of the day, we have, you know, made the judgment call through the consultation that was the best way forward. Significant number of people do prefer to have that guidance than those that don't. So there's lots of guidance for each unit within the handbook, which obviously we will want you to share with your learners as well as with your tutors. And we have also recommended that a discussion takes place between the tutor or whoever's supporting them with the pieces of work for assessment. We've suggested a discussion takes place with the learner to identify how they're going to apply the learning in the workplace. So how they're going to move from classroom, if you will, to getting that into practice and to then writing up the piece of work that they're going to do. So we've put that in place. It's not a mandatory requirement in that you need to hand it in and the EQA needs to see it, but we are suggesting very strongly that that should be, you know, a really good piece of practice that you would do. To make sure that what they're setting off to do in the workplace is relevant and is going to meet those assessment requirements at the end of the day. I talked a little bit already about, you know, there might be some product evidence that's also needed. So, you know, the usual things, like I've already mentioned, it might be a project plan that we need to see. It might be some presentation that we need to see, or a business case, or, you know, that kind of thing. And again, it's for, as with all qualifications, it's for you and your tutors to help the learner to check that is relevant, that it is their own work. Obviously, they're still going to have to sign the authenticity sheet to say that this is their own work and that's really clear within the piece. And it will again be up to each individual learner to make sure that they take control of permissions and confidentiality and data protection requirements in anything that they submit. So that's not a new thing. That's you know, as it was before. If we could just move on to the next slide. Again, we've got the result sheets and you can see that there. Similar to what we had before, old imported units will still have the same as they had before. We are moving to, you know, pass refer. So as we have with all of our units, all of the new units that we've created over the past few years. So it is either you have met the assessment requirements or you haven't. The old good pass is long gone now, I'm afraid. So in the handbook, where it's an old unit, you'll have the old light blue banner across the top, so you will know to recognise that as a unit that existed before, and the rest will be in the sort of orangey colours that we now use across everything. So moving on to how you get approval for these lovely things. For the level 6, everybody will need to undertake a full qualification approval because it is a completely new qualification. None of the units that we've now got in there existed before. So what you'll do is you'll complete a QAP online. You'll accompany that with your plan for delivery, your scheme of work, whatever you call it in your place, and the staffing that are going to carry out that delivery for you and that assessment for you. So a full QAP basically with the usual things there. we won't charge anybody for that full QAP if you're already approved for the existing level 6 award or the level 6 diploma. So it's brand new, but you don't have to pay for it. With the level 7, again, most people will need to do a full QAP approval. So we've significantly added to the unit bank. So although it's still possible to deliver the 3 units that you already delivered, or any of the units that you already delivered previously, and leave your program for as long as you wish as it is, we do still need you to submit a QAP and start to register on the new code. And again, if you have already got approval for the existing level 7, we won't charge you for that QAP to be submitted and approved. So the only exception at level 7 is for those who have dual accreditation, which I was talking to before, the universities particularly. We have created a fast track approval form for completion to allow you to register on the new codes, but use your internal mapped program, because until you change your mapped program, you will obviously still use the same ILM units. And the other exception is the MOD customers. They will have automatic approval for level 7, again, because until they make changes to their programs, they will still be running what they were running before, and therefore won't be using any of the new units. But for most people, full QAP approval, but no charge if you were already approved for that level. So on there now, you've got the fast track approval form. Very simple, very quick for the dual accreditation for the university and college customers that already use that. Again, no charge for it. Once it's been processed and approved, learners can be registered on that new code. The fast track approval form will be on the website, and it'll be on the follow-up to this email, but also I'm sure Julie will be in touch with people to move that on with you if you need any help with that. On the next slide, Julie, there's just what you're signing for when you sign for the fast track. So basically, that you're confirming that you already have got approval. You're just signing to say that's that you know they've already got the approval. You understand that if you do make any changes to your program that require a remap, as is always the case, you know, a remap will need to happen if you change your program, and then that will incur a fee, or will potentially incur a fee anyway. And that you will inform us, obviously, if you do make any changes to your existing program, that will trigger that remap, and again may incur a fee. So you're just signing up basically to say you understand that you need to carry on as you are, because we're giving you that fast track approval just for carrying on as you are, and when things change, we need you to do that remap. Just on the next slide, just a summary of that really. So if you're on the level 6 and you need to do that full remap because it's a completely new qualification, Julie or Gemma will be in touch with you about that to get that process started. If you're on the level 7, fast track approval is in your hands to sign that form and submit it, and we'll get it sorted. And where there's any new modules or units, we will need to do a remap. On the next slide there, we have got the fees for all the various things for the full code and the top-up code, as Julie mentioned before, where we've introduced those at a flat fee, so that people who have already, you know, done an award, done a certificate and want to move up to the diploma, or done an award that want to move up to certificate, basically pay that flat fee. I'm tripping over my words now. That flat fee to move on and add those extra credits there. We've tried to stay as close as we could to what we already had, so that it's not a big shock for people. but you know, there were rises in our fees anyway from the beginning of September. So those fees are currently now in the guide to fees that we have published. I'm going to now hand you over to Julie. She's going to talk us through the registration and certification. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Jill. And just let me try to move the slides on. Great. So good morning, everybody. So I'm the Higher Education Partnership Manager, Julie Rowlett. So I'll certainly know some of you who are on the call today. So just in terms of when the qualifications will end, I think as we always tend to do when we introduce new qualifications, we won't have a hard cut-off. We give you plenty of time to absorb the material, to review the new qualifications and have that transition period in terms of moving over. So you can see from there all of the qualifications in terms of the registration end date. So I think it's important to know the distinction between the registrations. So the last point of which you can register on the current qualifications will be the 31st of August 2024. So until next year, if you still wish to continue to register for customers that are already approved for the existing or what's now the old level 6 and level 7. Any new customers, if you're not approved for those old qualifications, you will need to register on the new qualifications. So if adding on the level 6 and the level 7 is new for you, then you will move automatically to our new qualifications. The old ones won't be available to anybody. And then, as with all ILM qualifications, learners from the point of registration have a 3-year window in which to complete their qualification. So the existing qualification certification end dates, as you can see there, will be the 31st of August 2027. So that will still be a 3-year. So if, for instance, you registered them on the 30th of March, then their registration end date will be the 30th of March 2027. So they all get that 3-year window, but the cut-off for certifying them will be the 31st of August 2027. The qualification will then be closed, and certifications for anybody who's still a live learner will not be allowed after that date. So there won't be opportunities for extensions or anything like that. So just so everybody's absolutely clear. So in terms of support, then we have our usual support, as with all of our qualification suites. We've got Jill, who you've heard from today, as one of our ILM technical advisors, and also Karen, who some of you might be familiar with. And then there is myself, so Julie Rowlett, as it says there, the Higher Education Partnership Manager. So I tend to look after our university customers and also dip in and support where else. And I don't think we've necessarily got any MOD customers on this particular session, but they'll be supported by Gemma Edwards, who looks after our customers who fall under that sector. And for people who are on this call who are not currently approved, then in order to offer these qualifications, you will need to go through the central approval process. And you can see there we've got the steps to guidance. So there's obviously approval information required and approval evidence required around the centre approval. And then the separate piece is also then around the qualification approval. And you will get the slides after, so you can see the links there in terms of the 5 easy steps moving through to centre approval. And again, we'll all be on hand to talk you through that if you want to have a further conversation about that. And we have lots of centre support materials. So you can see that I think some of you have already found and downloaded the qualification handbook. And that, of course, includes, as we always do with our qualification, what's required in terms of you as a centre. So what you need to evidence to us to become an approved centre. Of course, all the assignment briefs, the assessment guidance, the guidance for delivery, the suggested resources. So all of that's contained within that, I guess, the wealth of information that you'll find from the qualification handbook. And I think also just to add, in terms of support, we'll drop a slide in about this just before we send these slides out. As with all of our qualifications, all learners on programme will be entitled to a minimum of 1 year's free studying membership from the Institute of Leadership. So everybody following the qualification gets that free access. We provide all the kind of the links from the background, so everyone will get access to that additional wealth of resources, and the option then to upgrade to professional membership if, once they've successfully completed, they want to be part of that professional body. And of course, all of our qualifications will also be recognised through our innovative, I think globally leading digital credentials. So in addition to the parchment, there is the availability of e-certificates, but then of course there's also these really innovative credentials, which you'll see people share on things like LinkedIn, you know, on those professional social media platforms, also in email signatures, digital CVs. And if anybody wants a little bit more information about the metadata that sits behind those credentials, then that will, of course, we can of course provide that. And of course, our dual accredited customers will also get that dual branded digital credential to sit with that as well. So we do have a follow-up event. So on the 15th of November, we're having what we're calling a Q&A event. So this gives you a little bit of time to, I guess, review and reflect on the information that we're sharing, any particular questions that you might have about delivery. So do please, you know, sign up and join us at that webinar, and we look forward to seeing you then. And then I guess the next one is, are there any questions? We are running a bit ahead of time, so once we've done the questions, you can get some time back. So over to Jill and Juicy. Are there any questions to pick up on at this point?
There are, Julie, thanks very much. So is RPL possible? And absolutely, yes, it is. So that was the reason for the Sparky profile. So if a learner comes in and they've already got any of the level 5 units that are in the new level 6, they can RPL those in, well, they can APL those in to the level 6. And likewise, moving up from the level 6 to the level 7 if they've already undertaken the level 6. And those units are in the level 7, then they can APL those in also. So absolutely, it builds and builds from our level 2 now right up to our level 7. It's far more embedded than the previous ones, where the higher level ones did kind of sit outside of the suite, really. I have a question about what the last registration date is for the old level 7. And I think we've covered that actually, but just to reiterate, it's the 31st of the 8th, 24. If there is anybody that's been on the Wall Garden recently and seen that the registration has closed, it has been reopened, we understand, that it was closed in error last week whilst I've been on leave. So it's there again, up and running, as far as I know. But what we do want people to do is register on the new qualification as soon as possible, if you will. Is it optional to do either written or presentation or professional discussion, or are they expected to do all 3? No, it's optional, so they can do either or all or 2, depending on what's relevant, obviously, really. Most relevant to them and most relevant to what they're trying to evidence, what they're trying to present, really. But absolutely optional, yes. Do you think ILM will get to the point of making word count mandatory? No, I don't. I don't think we will. I think we were in danger of not having it at all, but we have managed to keep it in as guidance, as, you know, to give people an idea of where you are, you know, roughly writing 1,000 words, it's about 10 minutes worth of a presentation. Where you've got this amount of depth, this number of credits, we would expect to see this number of words in order to meet the requirements for that credit. But no, unlike other academic where you have got a word count, and if you go over it, you're penalised, that's not the same in vocational qualifications. So I don't see a day where we would make them mandatory. if you are approved for the level 7 award, what will be the price to apply for approval for the full suite? If you're already approved for the award, you always have had the potential to have a free upgrade to the full suite, so you would come under the category of a free approval to the full suite. I think that is all the current questions we have. Does anybody else have any other questions, or can anybody shout if I've missed one? Oh no, I have missed a couple actually. What additional charges are there once delivering assessing, i.e. for moderator, until direct claims status is achieved? There wouldn't be any additional charges, so you would get your usual EQA sampling during the year. Until you get your direct claim status, you would still get your usual one. If you require additional visits, there is a charge for that, but that doesn't very often occur, to be fair. Usually you can manage to achieve what you need to achieve within your included EQA visits. So I hope that's helped. What is the full charge for registering for level 7? So I'm not sure if that's the charge for approval. So if it's a charge for approval at level 6 and 7, the approval fee is 550. If you mean as a learner to register for the level 7, that's on that slide with the fees. So if it's the award, it's 148. If it's the certificate, it's 220. If it's the diploma, it's 290, and if it's the extended diploma, it's 310. Then I've got a question about the good pass. Sufficiency descriptors are included in the level 7 handbook. Oh, can you answer that, Juicy?
Well, if I understand it right, what I wanted to clarify is for any of the existing units that we are now using for these new products, for the level 5 and the level 7, 700, 701, 702, and 703, we have not touched those units at all. So if in those units there is a good pass descriptor, that will still be there. If there are marks assigned to the assessment criteria, they are there. So we haven't changed the marking for those units. For those units, the format is exactly the same. So if there are marks, they will still be there. If there is a description for pass and for good pass, it will be there. It's for the rest of the units, the new level 6 and the level 7, where you will not see marks, you will not see a descriptor for a pass or for a good pass. That is gone. We just is pass referral, and in order to meet the requirements of the assessment criteria, you need to evidence the assessment requirement sufficiency. So I hope I clarified that point.
Thank you, Juicy. I think you did. That's brilliant. Yeah. We've also got a similar question about APL. So if people hold level 5 units, can they be APL'd? If they're in the level 6, they can. So you will notice that not all of the level 5 units have been imported in. So it is only those on the list that Juicy showed us earlier that have been included in the level 6 that can be APL'd into the level, in the level 5 that can be APL'd into the level 6. Regarding staff requirements to deliver, can those competent to deliver the level 6, the level 5, deliver the level 6? Are there any considerations or differences in requirements to deliver occupationally competent, technically knowledgeable, have relevant experience, have credible evidence of experience of providing training. Most of those are exactly the same, yes. Look at the detail in the handbook. I can't tell you now off the top of my head whether you need a qualification, which you haven't listed there, but I think is there. So possibly that comes under the technically knowledgeable section. So I'd have to refer you to the handbook to just check that out. But all of those things are similar. We haven't included anything particularly, apart from just keep your eye on the level of qualification that's needed, particularly at level 7. We often have required a master's or a postgraduate qualification in order to deliver and assess qualifications at that level. Tuesday, can you just come back on? We've got several questions about what Wall Garden is currently allowing in terms of registering on the old. As I've literally just come back in this morning from leave, can you clarify about the registration onto the old and the new on Wall Garden?
I think it should still be open. So I think it was probably hidden before the existing one, but they should still be visible.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, from I think a few days ago, like Friday, the registration for these new products are also available.
Yeah, that was my understanding, just on a quick look at the catch up of the emails this morning, that it had been hidden for a while and it has been opened up so that people can still see it. It's hidden from any new people that don't have approval from being able to register on it, so that there's no confusion, but it shouldn't be hidden for people that have currently got approval, is my understanding. I hope that helps, John. Right, another check to see if I have finished the questions. We currently have DCS for level 7. What way will this work with the new level 7? Do we lose DCS? If you continue to deliver what you've already delivered, you won't lose your DCS. If you're changing to new units, the likelihood is that you will need one sampling before you get your DCS back, but you would need to speak to your EQA about that. That's within their gift to make that decision. So it would be on a possibly on a case by case basis. I think I've got a couple more now. Yeah, so we have got a question about whether the ILM assessment service is in place for the new qualifications. It's in consideration. We don't currently offer the ILMA service for the level 7, but it is something that service is considering. And yes, in-house assessors do need to be qualified. They do need to meet that occupational competence that I was talking about earlier with the previous questions. Introduction to ILM badge certification. How do you advance to level 6? I'm sorry, I don't understand that question. Does anybody else? If not, could you just clarify what you mean about the introduction to ILM badge certification? And I'll read the next question.
Just to add, Jill, we are going to have digital credentials for attached to these qualifications. So they are we're doing some final checking before they can go live. But yeah, digital credential is something that will be attached to these products.
Thanks, Juicy. We've got a question about the level of qualification in the occupational competence. So in the occupational competence, it's usually the level of qualification that you need is at the level of the qualification or higher. So if it's a level 6, it will be a degree. If it's level 7, it will be a postgraduate. It doesn't need to be just purely leadership and management, but it needs to be in a relevant area. So if they've specialised in an area of management and this person has said, such as hospitality management, that's still, you know, that level of qualification, it's still got management in the title, so it would still be classed as relevant. I mean, it is up to you as a centre to engage with, to recruit, to train the right people to deliver the qualifications. So if you're happy that that person's got the relevant knowledge and skills and experience, then that's for you to justify that on your staffing list to your EQA for that delivery, with using the guidance of the occupational competence. But yeah, anything in that related field of leadership and management. So it wouldn't be like a, you know, a pure geography degree with, you know, no experience in leadership and management. It would need to be a relevant degree. When could you actually start delivering the new ILM DIP qual? Now. You can do it now. As soon as you've got your approval, away you go. Basically, now that you've got the detail, now that you've got the handbook, you can look at the detail, you can set your learner journey up, you can think about how you're going to deliver it and over what period, get your approval, and away you go. We've got a question about where the handbook is on the website. There will be a link sent out to you straight after this. It's under the qualifications. I think there's a banner running across the top as well that would give you that link, but it's under the qualifications, under the leadership and management qualifications tab, rather than the resource tab. It's not under the general tab as far as I know. So you go into, I think it's the second one along the top banner called qualifications, and then down to leadership and management, and then down to the level 6 or 7. There's lots of information there coming up on the website. Obviously, until we launch today, we haven't been able to get it all up there, but it'll be all up there today.
Jill, I just wanted to add about the website for the to download the specification. Under each level, it will be under information for ILM centers. There will be a tab which says download the specification, and so when you click there, the handbook will open.
Thank you. Perfect. Still got questions coming in. Brilliant. So as a new training and development company, what is the process to include level 6 and 7? So it's through that approval process. So if you're a new training and development company that is already approved to deliver City and Guilds or ILM qualifications, you would add them through your walled garden by completing a qualification approval form -ILM in the drop down. If you're not already an approved centre, there is a link on the slide deck when you get that to our Becoming an Approved Centre 5 steps handbook, and that will help you, and it will also give you the contact for the team that will guide you through that process if you're not already an approved centre. It usually takes about a month to 6 weeks if you want to become a new centre. If you've got everything in place already, it takes up to 28 days if you are adding on the qualification, but we don't expect it to take quite that full time with this one. Somebody's just joined. Are the units available? We'll be sending them out. Yes, yeah, we have covered that. So the units and the handbook and the cue card and everything is on the website, and we will be sending out the links as well as the recording for this, so you'll be able to catch up on that on what you've missed this morning. Okay, so going back to the introductory level and moving to the level 6. So basically, you know, if you've got an introductory level qualification, you would go, if you're a learner asking me this question, which I suspect you are, you would go onto the website and find a centre, go on to find a centre for that qualification. So it will bring up centres that deliver the qualification close to you or online. And then you will undertake that programme of delivery to move on to the level 6. There's not an entry requirement, so you don't need to have a particular qualification in order to come onto the programme, but you do need to be in a senior manager job. So you need to have a role in which to apply your learning and bring that into your assessments. So that's the only caveat really, is that if you've done an introductory, are you now in a role that would allow you to present evidence for level 6? I hope that's helpful. Yes, the old handbook will still be there, but the new one is also there on the website, we believe, this morning. Does the RQA need to be qualified at level 7? Yes, they do. Yeah. The occupational competency applies to all the delivery staff, everybody that's involved with supporting that learner or making an assessment decision. Okay. Thank you for all those wonderful questions. I think I've answered them all. But thank you so much. If I haven't and you want to follow up by email, that's absolutely fine. And as I say, you will get the follow-up email as well yourselves from us. So that will give you probably the rest of the answers if I have missed anything. I'm scrolling up and down as I'm talking and I can't see any others. Amazing. Thank you. And thank you, Julie and Juicy, also for your information this morning. That's been really good. Okay. See you all again soon at our follow-up Q&A webinar on the 15th of November, hopefully, when please do come armed. It won't be an input session. We want you to come armed with any further questions that you've got once you've had a look at the information that's there, and any teething problems that you've got. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. No, I haven't. Do you need it? Is it private?